Good morning. Barley Cock is hosting us today in one of their job sites as we have a virtual site visit due to COVID-19. Christian is going to introduce us to his team and his project.
Thank you, Dr. Tulio, for coming out. It's a pleasure to have you guys on site. I think we'll start off by kind of going through a project description and introducing myself along with my team. As far as our project today, we are in Comal ISD, high school number 5. It has been renamed to Piper High School as of last month, 2 months ago. The school is currently going to hold about 3,000 students. The overall footprint of it is 400,000 square feet. On a multi-level description, it's 4 levels in total. It spans across, from academics to fine arts to athletics. And then in general, as a site, of course, this was originally a greenfield site. So we also have a football stadium that'll hold 9,000 seats. Has a competition pool, has baseball, softball, practice fields that go with it, and of course auxiliary buildings throughout the site that include like guard stations, concessions, storage buildings. So overall it is a large site. And now leading into safety, of course it is a very big point of discussion on this project. As far as orientations are mandatory for new employees. So to date, we've had over 1,500 new employees on this site. So we've given out 1,500 orientations. That is mandatory on the first day you arrive. With that, we have over 800,000 man hours in approximately 2 years, right? So 1,500 orientations, 1,500 employees that hit the site, totaling in 800,000 man hours. As far as BC safety measures, we have a couple BC safety measures or Bartlett Cock measures that we have implemented on the site, and they're kind of a policy across the board. For starters, PPE, right? So hard hat, safety glasses, and safety vest at all times. No exceptions required on this site, and actually every other Bartlett Cock site. Weekly safety contractor meetings, right? So every subcontractor needs to have their safety meetings at the beginning of the week. They are mandatory. Safety topics are dictated by Bartlett Cock on a weekly basis. And then on a monthly basis, we have job site stand downs. So it's a topic that we review with all subcontractors all at once. And it can range from fall protection to safety equipment to orientation. So it's a different topic on a monthly basis. Currently, COVID-19 protocols is something that we've also implemented just like every other job site. We require social distancing, right? So if you're working in the same room, always maintain social distancing, face protection. Of course, I don't have my face protection right now, but we are socially distanced at this point. Every employee needs to fill out a safety questionnaire. So at the beginning of the day, I think you probably filled it out wherever you're at, but temperature checks, have you felt sick? Do you feel sick? Do you have symptoms? So every employee on this site is required to take that on a daily basis. And then we have implemented hand wash stations, sanitizing stations across the job site in public areas. So along with that, we also have a stock of hand sanitizer that we keep on hand for anybody that may need it. So our next subject is procurement. Blake Mary is the assistant PM out here. He will touch base on a couple items with that.
So I'm Blake. I'm the APM for this job. The procurement process begins during submittals. So far we've had 500 plus submittals on the job. We're pretty much almost done, waiting on a few last minute items. So once submittals are reviewed and approved by the design team, we begin gathering lead times, communicating with our subcontractors certain obstacles, what are long lead items, what are items that we don't really have to worry about because they only take a week or two upon release to get here. We will verify with our field team and the project schedule to get start dates, when are we anticipating the beginning of installation for these items, and then we compare that with our lead times and make sure that we release these items well before they're needed here on site. And then when that happens, if they get here before their installation date, we will discuss storage, where we're going to lay this material down, who's going to handle the delivery of these items. And something specific to talk about for this job is finishes. This job had a very intensive finish selection process where essentially we had to get all of the samples, all of the colors, all of the boards together to submit before any of them were selected. This goes for exterior and interior. So essentially the design team did not want to pick any colors without having all the color options across their floors, their walls, their ceilings, their paint. They wanted to select all of those colors at the same time, so that there wasn't any oh man, we don't like the way that floor looked with this wall, or we don't like the way that paint looked with this tile. So everything had to be gathered up front to submit at the same time. And obviously when it comes to lead times and preparing for multiple items and products to be scheduled and installed across this short time frame, that was a little bit of a hustle to get all that selected and for them to release elevations and designs and drawings for the colors that they selected. So it's a very upfront process, very intensive, and you're constantly coordinating with not only your team but multiple teams on the design side and the subcontractor side to ensure that there's no delay to the schedule of the project. So this is an example of our procurement log, just a little snippet of it. This is one of the many tools we use to track procurement on a daily basis. So as you can see, items here are from division 9 through 11. We have the item name and we have the subcontractor that is providing that item. Items in yellow are items that I've personally just paid a close eye to track, like due to complications. So PSI, for example, they had some COVID delays in manufacturing. Elite for the lockers has a very long lead time. Just little things like that I use to make sure that sub in particular I'm following with closely. There's a formula in this Excel document where when you plug in the lead time and the date needed, it'll let you know when to release the item or when the item should be released for fabrication. So this is just one of the many tools that we use to keep track of when we should be releasing items, what date it's needed. And then we have certain information in here, like the date that it was submitted, so we can keep track of, okay, well, this was sent to, or the reviewed and approved submittal was sent to this sub on this date. They've had this amount of time to work on their end towards fabricating the item. And then certain items need field measurements. Sometimes for certain items, subs will need to send people out here to measure the particular space they're working with, or to figure out the exact dimensions of, let's say, the cabinet or whatever they're providing. So we have a little column for that to keep track of the items that'll need field measurements. And yeah, this is, like I said, one of the many tools outside of the schedule that we use to track procurement.
Okay, moving on to our next subject, the funding process and project administration, right? So a few forms you may be familiar with is kind of an industry standard is the AIA G702 form, right? So it is application and certificate for payment. A little bit about the process, kind of starts with subcontractors where we open a window from the 14th to the 21st every month. They essentially give them the opportunity to bill for work in progress and work projected through the end of the month. So 30th, 31st, right? So the subcontractor has a right to bill for any work in progress, any material that is on site, and then projecting through the end of the month. As the GC, we open that window up for them, we essentially close that window, and then we verify. So both our field team and our office team, our superintendent and myself, project manager, we need to verify that the work in progress is correct, that any material on site is on site, and any projections through the end of the month are attainable. So before approving the subcontractor submission, It requires both approval from superintendent side and the project manager side, right? So with that, the pay application is built up into one, submitted by the general contractor, the project team. So we go from, on this site where we have 52 subcontractors on any given time, 30 to 40 subcontractors bidding. We generate one large application for payment that goes to the architect and the district for review. Essentially that window is the 1st through the 7th, right? And kind of the process starts all over again. So the architect sits down, he reviews it, we review it together, he verifies work in place, he verifies material, he verifies projections. At some point, backup can be requested, like invoices, like photos, something to substantiate what is being billed for. Once that process is completed, it then goes to the district for signature. Typically, the district has no objections to it, and we are funded within 14 days. So I think the process is typically between 7 to 14 days in general, but the architect and the district do a very good job of helping us out and funding us as fast as they can. So, okay, moving on to another critical part of our process out here is BIM. Alicia Marquez, our VDC specialist, can talk a little bit about the coordination and some of the challenges she faced.
Okay, so this was a pretty challenging project. One of the areas that I would like to talk about is the electrical portion that was coming from the central plant, trying to provide electricity from buildings B, C, D, E, all the way to the auditorium to serve the other side of the buildings. So one of the challenges that we had, and we normally have a BIM decisions log when there are major items for the project, for the architect and the design team, so we can get faster response from them. We introduced a BIM decisions log in Excel. So one of the areas that we were looking at, and it was finally coordinated, would be item 18. So we had storm drain, the overflow drain, sloping line, ceiling height, structure, lighting. So everything was clashing with everything by having those conduits cross all the buildings into the other side. So what we did, we had to get together with the design team, the district, and ourselves and make the decision of removing all these conduits underground. So the final outcome of all of this, you will not see the electrical portion, but you will see mechanical piping, ductwork, electrical. But that freed up a lot of space in order to coordinate with the ceiling heights and steel and other items in this area. So the central plant is on this side on the left, and now it's going underground, servicing all the other areas all the way across to the other buildings, which is auditorium, gym, locker areas. So if you see this, pretty much is the left side is all the classrooms, gathering spaces in the middle, library, and then the right side of the buildings are all the gymnasium, public spaces, auditorium. That's pretty much it.
So the next topic we will be discussing is work in progress, a little bit of quality control, the measures we've taken in place, and some constructability items that we addressed. Trevor Mangold, our superintendent out here, will lead us through those.
All right, so we're up here at the top of the hill here. So this level here is level 3. I know it's, you're on a ground level, but you're on level 3. As we go down the hill, we make cuts at each floor level. So you got level 3, level 2, level 1, and this is where we started here. We started milling the top of this hill here. We brought this level down around 18 feet to get a flat working plane here for both buildings. As you see, we got 2 buildings kind of separated here in the middle. We got A, B, and C, and then F, G, H. A, B, and C, those are your academic buildings, classrooms, science GH, you got your auditorium, your gym, your locker rooms, everything with the fine arts over there, black box. Alright, so right now we're in building D. We're standing on the 3rd level. Down below me is the 2nd level. This is the learning stair area. This is like an open teaching area. Over there on that side we have the cafeteria, the student commons area. As we walk in, this is the main entry of the building here. And to the left hand side here we have the administration. Like I was saying, it's 2 separate buildings. Basically what we did, we made this 2 separate jobs where you have a crew on this side and a crew on that side. A building started about 2 weeks before F building on the concrete, and everything just worked downhill from there. Like I was saying, outside we started on level 3 and worked down to level 1. So that logistically getting the subs on track with, hey, you're starting on level 3, don't order everything for level 1, starting on 3 and working your way down from there.
Come back around.
Okay, I look into the
Look
cafeteria.
into the cafeteria. It's already kind of staggered. You'll see like in this area we have paint, we have tinted.
Yeah, there's a more.
What's the fireproofing rating of the building?
Fireproofing, so there's inside building it doesn't have any specific fire ratings, but there are certain sections of the building that require 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, so like between A building and B building, we have a 2-hour firewall.
Correct.
It's a CMU firewall, basically right there where that plastic is. That's the separation. At that plastic, we have an accordion fire door. When the fire alarm goes off, it closes that door.
Right.
Separating the 2 buildings. So right now we're in A building. Like I said, this is the administration area here on the left side, and you have classrooms going on the outside, and then you have 4 science labs here in the middle. So in this area, we are working on finishes. As you can see, we got paint on the walls, we got ceiling grid in. We're going through with the tile. So right now we're working on overhead punch for Barley Cock, where we're going through, looking at all the work above ceiling, making sure it's right, getting the subs back in here and fixing it. And then that'll allow us to walk with the engineer and architect, and they'll give us their punch list, and we will come back, fix those items, and then hopefully get covered up, and then we can move out of this area and keep working our way downhill.
As Trevor mentioned, one of the quality control items that we discussed is before ceiling grid starts going in, him and his team go in there and kind of create their own BC overhead punch, which essentially means we are looking for items or deficiencies that may be caught in the future. So kind of eliminating those issues, right? So we go through there, we're looking at overhead, we're addressing them, we're tracking them. He's using plan grid, right,
Everything's off the right side.
to issue those items out to the teams, to the subs, in an effort to avoid those issues once the ceiling grid is already in and once it's being inspected by the contract or by the architect, by the engineers, right? So, that's it. Yeah.
As here, we got this plastic duct also in these areas. It's because we don't have permanent power right now. Should be able to get that here in the next week or so.
Correct.
The reason we have this in here is so we can allow to keep going with these finishes. If not, because on the specs we have to have a certain amount of conditioned air before we can put paint on the walls, millwork in, and finishes such like that. This having temporary air going through the buildings allows us to keep the project moving.
Same thing, right? So, millwork.
I was saying, you got millwork here. This is a science lab. We have water, gas, electrical. So before we could start covering all these walls up, we had to get inspection by the fire marshal, who looks at electrical, studs, gas. That's part of an inspection that we have to go through ourselves and make sure everything's complete before that fire marshal comes in, looks at those walls before we can cover up and start everything else behind that.
Along with that coordination, I think Alicia and our BIM department have they have a lot of input on where some of these items are, especially sitting in walls, behind millwork, in coordination with sinks, water, electrical that need to connect to millwork in this area. So although you may not see it, there's a lot of roughing within these walls that kind of surround this entire inner part of this building. So.
Right now we're in B building. This is the cafeteria, and down below me you got the kitchen. If you look up there to the left, we got level 4. So that is the only level that is not accessible by the ground. So basically whenever we're getting in that area, we had to make sure we coordinate any work that's up high. Before we started closing everything up, we got everything, all the heavy stuff up there, and got that taken care of. So right now we're standing on structural steel and composite metal deck. As I was saying, we walked from 3 straight across into level 3B. We went on slab on grade to suspended slab. Down below me, you have slab on grade also, like I was saying. So each step we milled down to subgrade, and then took another step down and milled down about another 20 feet and down to subgrade there also. Which, you know, it's weird. You can walk from level 3A, walk straight across to level 4 below you, and then you walk into C building, which will go next. You'll have 2 floors below you until you get to the ground level.
So one of the challenges, and I'm pretty sure you can touch base on, is everything above overhead, right? So essentially, because we have multiple levels in multiple areas, coordinating overhead work from either direction, having it installed prior to some of these finishes going in and around this area, I think was pretty crucial, right?
Yes. I was saying to get, like you were saying, get the higher work done first so we can get the lifts out of here, which, you know, help with finishes that are going in right behind it. I was saying everything's moving downhill. We set a precedence for that early about starting at the top and working your way down. Every sub follows that same pattern, working through the building, and that just keeps everybody in line. You can stack everybody up back behind each other. So right now we're in C level 3. C building and A building are identical to each other. Classrooms around the outside with science labs in the middle. We had the science lab millwork showing up at the same time for both areas, even though we started that area first. It showed up for this area at the same time, so we got these 4 rooms ready before everything else. As you see here, we still got level 5 finishes. We just got to texture and paint the hallways. Most of the classrooms going through have texture and paint on the walls and ceiling grid going in. Like I was saying, we're on 3rd level C. We have 2 levels down below us before we get to the ground level. This is the least complete area on the project. As I was saying, we started there and worked our way down. We're going through, the subs are going in, installing all their fixtures inside the grid, since that's just now going in. The lights, supply and return air diffusers, putting sprinkler heads in, stuff like that. You want to take a look at the football field over here? Yeah, we can look at that right there. Yeah. So are you and Casey kind of sharing D&E, or is one of you? I got D&E. Alright, so we're outside of building D and E, kind of in the middle between the 2 main buildings. D and E buildings, that's the library common area. Up above us is the courtyard. That's basically an exposed courtyard that overlooks the football field, as you can see. Show you, we got 3rd level up there. You see we walked out onto the ground, and it steps down. You got over by those porta potties. You have another entrance into the building at sea level 1. So when we started milling all this, basically they call it leveling the site. we took all the millings and dirt and all that and brought it down to the football field. And so on the south side of the football field, there's a 25-foot retaining wall. And as we're cutting, we're filling on the other side and leveling the site. As we're working through there, we had to coordinate utilities as to their depths at certain areas that needed to get in there before we kept filling up as the cuts moved down. Looking across there, we got the football field, obviously, and then over there by those connexes, you got the tennis courts with the practice field back behind it. I guess when we get over there, we can look at baseball, softball.
Yeah, so one of the, themes on this project is large gathering areas, right? So at the stairs, they call them learning stairs, there'll be steps, stairs to where students can congregate, listen on presentations, kind of hang out. You step out into this area. It's a little difficult to see, but at some point, this will be a plaza area kind of overlooking the football field, right? So another additional congregation point for large gathering areas, presentations, whatever it might be. And then along the north side of the football field are concrete steps, bleachers, right? So at some point they'll be used as bleachers as well. So kind of the focal point one of the focal points of this project is kind of this area here, right? Bringing in both buildings, right? Builds a large gathering space for both sides, and then again overlooking the site. So I think it was a great feature that the district will really utilize at some point. Okay, so I think in closing, overall, this project budget-wise is $120 million. Initially started about 135, where some VE options took place. Comal ISD currently does not have a high school on this side of the district, so ultimately this will serve a big portion of the west end of their district. It's going to hold 3,000 students at some point. As you can see, a lot of these areas are large gathering areas, so as a community, a lot of the large events will be held at this school. Comal ISD, I think, has invested a lot of time, money, and effort to kind of put together a facility that'll benefit the community on this side of the town. So I think it's a great project. There's a lot of moving parts. Logistically, it was pretty tough. As you can see, it's a large school, a large footprint. Our field team has been great. Our office team has been great. Our BIM team has been great. So I think to put a project of this size, this magnitude, this cost in 30 months takes a lot of effort from everybody. I think we have great subs out here. We have a great owner. We have a great architect. We're excited to finish. I believe we'll finish on a good note.
Well, I just want to say thank you to the Bartlett family for hosting us today and giving this very unique experience to our students.
Thank you.